Okay, we are starting the stream. Let me pull up the live stream link once it appears. It'll come up in a second, I think, hopefully. Alright, let me get the live stream up, and we'll get the chat going, and first thing first, obviously, we have to make sure we have audio, so once we get some people in here, let us know if you can hear Dave. Dave, if you can give us a quick test, hopefully we'll be good to go.
Hello, Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland.
Okay, it sounds good on my end. We were testing it earlier with the record. It sounds good. So if you're in the chat, you're just joining the stream, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And Mutated Gino, if you could let me know if you can hear Dave, that'd be great, because I know we had an issue last week. Hopefully we're good now.
Can you hear me now, Gino? Can you hear me now?
Both good to go? All right, Samantha says audio's perfect. All right, hooray! I figured out basic technology, which I failed so terribly at last week. All right, thank you guys so much for being here. Samantha, Lewis, thank you very much. I did pull up Dave's mock draft. We'll, of course, talk about that tomorrow on the podcast. If you guys have any Steelers questions about rest of free agency, the draft, the season, whatever, feel free to ask it in the chat below. Dave and I will be here for the next hour. Thank you, Ali Howard, for being here. So while you guys filter in and ask some questions, Dave, if you want to kind of talk about your mock a little bit, I know I keep praising you here, but I think you do a really good job with these things. I know you detest these mock drafts. I love this one, though.
Yeah, look, I tried to do a little bit different. I didn't want to put any of the names that I had in my previous two mocks in this one.
Okay.
So that was one of the goals to start with. Second is I wanted to test a theory about maybe waiting, on an offensive lineman, because I'm struggling with where to put a guy like Cushenberry out of LSU, where he should fall to. I'm struggling with the fact of whether or not the Wisconsin center or the Michigan center Ruiz will be there. Which, by the way, Cesar Ruiz has told me that he has not yet had any, or doesn't have a video conference pre-draft set with the Steelers yet. So
okay.
not that couldn't happen, but as of yet, he doesn't have one scheduled there. So, that was first and foremost. That was kind of my goal. There was to get new names in this thing, kind of wait a little bit on offensive linemen.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think the issue that you're highlighting here is the 6 picks problem, where they only have 6 picks, and you got to sacrifice some position where it's got to fall probably further than what you would like. And I guess offensive lineman, you could argue it because they at least added Wisniewski, and they haven't added, say, a safety, maybe not a receiver or an edge guy. So it's tough. We do have one question in right now, and thank you guys for being here, getting asked a question. Be here for the next hour. Frank V asks, what do you guys think about trade rumors on Penn Live podcast? They said that Adam Schefter said that the Steelers are trying to trade James Washington for a second-round pick. Have you heard about that? That is news to me. Dave, have you heard that before?
I have not heard that yet. No. And I would be a bit surprised. I mean, what are you going to get for James Washington right now, even if you did trade him?
Not a second, like this claim is.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to get a second-round pick for him. Look, I mean, you would have that would leave you down to 2 wide receivers with Juju entering the final. I just don't see how any of that's possible. And I haven't even seen. I mean, obviously, if Adam Schefter would have reported that, we would have, we would have, seen it, on the Twitter machine, I think, by now.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. And in a receiver deep class like this, I mean, who's trading for a receiver? Just go draft one. I mean, why would you go out there and trade for a guy like James Washington? I mean, I like James Washington, but no, I haven't heard that. Noxley asked, what edge guys does Dave like? Well, you got one of them in your mock draft. You should see it on screen right now in the third round with Darrell Taylor, which I think could be a pick for Pittsburgh and definitely probably on their radar.
Yeah, almost 20 sacks, and I think I did a contextualization on him not too long ago as well, going over his career college sacks at Tennessee. People will look at that sack total and say, "Oh, there's no way this kid falls down into the third round." I understand that, but on the flip side, this guy's got a lot. A lot of development still left to do. From a technique standpoint, from a counter standpoint, just all the way around. He's by no means a complete type player. A couple, I think, kind of gift sacks in that reel, if I remember correctly as well too. And he has played on his feet some, so that's a plus there. So he is a little bit older. So I think that's one thing that you have to keep in mind here is he is, I think he's 23 now. And so he's probably, reached his athletic peak at this point. But he does have some long arms, and there is room for a little bit of development, I think, still as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What was his production? Do you have his numbers in terms of what he produced at Tennessee?
Well, the almost 20, what was it, 19 and a half sacks.
Okay.
I think on him. I'll have to look and see if I can pull up the pressures on him.
Okay. He's a big guy though. He has the size that they look for sure, and so he's kind of one of those guys because they like their pass rushers big, and I forget exactly what his weight is, but I think he fits it. So yeah, I think him and guys like Taylor and Curtis Weaver probably are some of the edge guys that fit really well from a kind of what they look for standpoint.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can pull up his. Go ahead and answer a few questions.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just getting the link out on Twitter, so let me close out on my Twitter account and channel and pull up Dave's mock draft again. While Dave does that, Travis Herco asks, middle rounds, do you see the Steelers going after Moss as a developmental tight end for the future? No, probably not. I think tight end, again, as we said earlier, that six-pick problem of someone's got to fall. You can't take all the positions that you'd like to take unless you trade back. Obviously, we don't predict trades in either of our mock drafts, so maybe somebody else. I don't know if Moss is the developmental type where the ceiling's not going to be super high. If you're going to look for a developmental guy, look for somebody like Ossie from UCLA or somebody like that as opposed to Moss that I think is a pretty, maybe high floor but low ceiling kind of guy. So I don't really see that guy being in the cards as a developmental type.
Daryl Taylor, 13 run stops, which isn't too terribly bad. Of course, he had 7 sacks last year, 34 total hurries, and two batted passes there. So I think the thing that sticks out the most about Daryl Taylor over the course of the last 3 years is he seemingly has gotten better each of the 3 years. So I think that's important there. Once again, he is a little bit older, so if there is a little bit of kind of a turnoff on him, it is that he's a little bit older, and obviously probably wouldn't be a rookie starter at best. Would be kind of maybe a 10 snap a game guy at best. You would think, as long as everybody stays healthy there. So I think the age is something you have to keep in mind. I like the Jonathan, who's a Greenwood out of Florida, and I like the other Florida kid that I put in my mock draft. In my other mock draft as well too. Syracuse's what's his name?
Alton Robinson. Yeah.
Right. He's a guy I've talked about as far back as I think it was East-West Shrine game.
Tom, I think has talked. You guys had a good discussion on Robinson.
Right, we had a good discussion. So I think like Kevin Colbert said, he seems to think this is a deep class. Maybe not as deep as what maybe he led on, but there's a few guys for sure. The kid out of Charlotte, Highsmith that they've had some evidently had discussions with that I think could be had in the later rounds.
Robinson is interesting. He's a pretty technical guy. I thought he had a good week at the Senior Bowl just from a kind of process and going through drills well, not screwing them up kind of standpoint. I don't know if the athleticism is great enough, and there is some off the field stuff. He started his career at Texas A&M. I think it was a really high prospect. There was some off the field stuff. I forget exactly what the nature was. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but he ended up having to go to Syracuse. It's kind of the only program that would take him on. So in a year with the uncertainty, I don't want to say he's a character issue, but there is that level of uncertainty there that would make me a little uneasy with Robinson, but I think the profile overall fits. We have a question here. Dennis, hello. Thank you for being here, guys. Kevin the Boss, says, what do you think our record will be next year? I say 11-5 ceiling and 9-7 floor. I'm sure my answer is going to come somewhere around there. I think my standard boilerplate 10-6 is likely, but I haven't thought about it right now. Let's go through the draft before we start talking about, season records.
10-6.
Yeah, 10-6. I think when all else fails, go 10-6.
That's what I always go with. 10-6 usually.
Samantha Eckhorn, you guys normally talk about who you like for the Steelers, but who is someone they won't get but you really like? I think I'll have to go with the receiver. Some of the top guys for me, it's probably Denzel Mims. For you, I'm guessing it'd be Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I really like Justin Jefferson. I do, and I like Mims too. You look at Mims, and there's not many holes in his tape. It just comes down to, like I wrote in my mock draft earlier today. There's no guarantee Jalen Reagor, falls either. But I have a feeling one of those 3 guys maybe will fall, and I think Reagor probably maybe has the best chance of those 3. But Justin Jefferson is definitely a guy I like that I don't think the Steelers will draft. You want to talk about back end of the draft? Everybody knows my love for Charlie Warner, the tight end out of Georgia. I think he's going to go. It'd be interesting to see where. I tell you where he better not go. he better not go to the Redskins with that 5th-round pick that was that the Steelers traded. They traded away Vinette to the Seahawks, and they got that 5th-round, or they gave that 5th-round pick to the Seahawks. Well, the Seahawks have since dealt that pick to the Redskins, and we all know that the Redskins could probably use a tight end. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to lose my mind if that winds up happening.
Yeah, for sure. Pitman says, I don't know if this is a question or comment, but this is addressed to you, Dave. Dave, man, what a great pick in Kaliki Hudson. Do you think Kaliki Hudson? Oh, I guess because it's in your mock draft, so why'd you go Kaliki Hudson there in the 4th round?
Because, and I think you pretty much, I think you put this out on Twitter yesterday after they, after the report that they had met with the, who's the kid that they reportedly have interest in?
Memphis' Austin Hall, hybrid guy.
Right, another hybrid guy. So we've already heard them talk a little bit of, maybe about being interested in Tanner Muse. This kid out of Memphis, we've already, it's uncommon for Kevin Colbert to comment on any players if offered them by name. So I was surprised to hear him actually talk about Hudson the other day during the fan Q&A call on Steelers Nation United there. That's another one of those tweeners. Those are one of the guys that Alex and I continually say you better have a plan for those guys, but can play maybe off the ball, can play some safety, can play in the slot, not probably good at excellent at either of those positions, but if you have a distinct plan for them, to me now it looks like maybe they'll go after a type player like that. So being Hudson's a McKeesport guy, and Kevin Colbert recently talked about it, I figured I'd throw him in to see how he looked in that mock.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that's the little tea leaves we have right now, the very faint blue clues we have kind of indicate they're looking for some sort of hybrid guy. It is worth mentioning at least that, and these guys are less hybrid, but nonetheless, they're sub-package players. Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, scheduled to be free agents next year. You're not going to be able to keep both. Hopefully you keep one, so you do want to think about protecting yourself, and obviously, if you think you could play one of these guys at safety depth right now is non-existent, so it might be able to help you in a lot of different ways, and of course, at inside linebacker, you've lost some pieces there too, so maybe this is going to be their catch-all way of trying to address loss at inside linebacker, safety depth being poor, and the potential loss of Hilton and or Sutton in future years. We have a question here from Larry P. Remember when you and old Dave thought running back was a remote possibility at 49? Now you guys putting out articles as to why we shouldn't. Well, let's see the explanation on that. Well, that was my article for that, just for the record. The reason why I wrote that article was just because Dave and I talked about why we don't think running back is a great idea and why it's less likely to happen than people think, and I just wanted to put that out there on paper to get all the thoughts down in one place. I think we both believe it's a possibility. I mean, I think we just talked about it on Friday's podcast, that we both think it's certainly a possibility, just lower than what some of the national media might think and expect.
Well, the thing that we've said for quite a while now, I'm not sure if he listens to the podcast regularly, but we've said that just because we don't think the Steelers should take a running back doesn't mean that they won't, obviously. And we've said, been consistently saying that if they do take a running back, hopefully they take one early in this draft.
Mm-hmm. And one guy, though, that's interesting is someone that you're watching now, somebody I've watched watched at the Senior Bowl, Antonio Gibson, that I think really has that great blend of receiver, running back, kind of hybrid playmaking skills that kind of fits everything this offense is trying to look for.
Boy, I'm just now getting into kind of his tape. I've been busy watching a lot of Jonathan Taylor and Dobbins and Cam Akers, and finally getting to this kid. And boy, they moved him around quite a bit, and he can function for you just as a wide receiver would, the way they move him around and line him up. So just him starting to scratch the surface with him right now.
I think he's what Jalen Samuels was hopefully going to be and isn't. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. I want to get to some of these other questions. The MSL145 asks, would you guys trade next year's third-round pick to go up, let's say, 10 or 12 spots for Cesar Ruiz if he falls out of the first round? I would not. I like Ruiz, but I wouldn't trade that kind of capital because I don't know if the difference between him and some of the other centers is high enough. But he fits. I mean, Cesar Ruiz certainly fits as someone that the Steelers would and probably should like. Captain Spartan 04, thanks for being here. He says, what's up, y'all? Vince Williams liked one of my tweets. That's awesome, man. Cool. Chad Weiss asks, would you trade Devin Bush for a 1, 2, and 3rd round pick? No. Devin Bush is untouchable to me. Is he the same? Yeah, okay. I figured you get a quick agree there. Frank V, I want an offensive playmaker at pick 49. That's certainly possible. That's what Dave has done in his mock draft, getting Jalen Reagor, who ran well at the combine with a 4.47, but I think he's faster than that because he came in heavy at the combine, was playing in the 190s during his junior year with TCU, came in heavy for some misguided reason, so that's a guy that can certainly be explosive, right, Dave?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dakota Smith, do you think Edmonds is the answer at safety, or do you see the Steelers taking one in the draft? Well, I don't think it's one or the other. I think you need to take a safety because the depth is so non-existent, and that doesn't mean that you want to bail on Edmonds. You just need depth behind those guys because if Fitzpatrick or Edmonds gets hurt, then you're in a really tough place. So you have the Steelers taking a safety in this mock draft, Brandon Jones. We've talked about a lot that checks that, and you say it here, hearts and smarts. I mean, that is a Steelers pick if I ever saw one.
Yeah, captain was a captain at Texas as well too. Moved around, boy. If you look at if you go through large portions of his tape, you'll see him down in the box. You'll see him in the slot. You'll see him a free safety position, strong safety position. Look, he's not an athletic dynamo, and he's definitely, I think, in my opinion, better near the box than he is further away. Mm-hmm. But he does give you a player that has that kind of versatility there, and really the kind of players that the Steelers like. Not a bad spark score, I don't think, top to bottom when it comes to him. But look, this is a guy. Both those guys, Devin and both Brandon Jones are two Texas players. I think either one of those kids could wind up being drafted by the Steelers this year.
Yeah, I think for this year, you're looking at guys from Texas, Clemson, and Michigan. Is my screen blinking there? I don't know. Look weird for a second. I think all those guys are going to make sense. They're going to stick Power 5 there and draft more than known commodity. Zach asks, who do you think is the ideal pick at 49? Man, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, given the circumstances, but I just have no idea what direction they're going to go at 49, to be honest with you.
It's so hard that it's hard enough when they're sitting there with a first round pick at, let's say, 18 or 20 or 20, whatever, to at least it's a little bit easier to narrow down. And also by then you have, the pro days and the pre-draft visits. We have none of that this year. And on top of that, their first pick is 49th overall. Mm-hmm. So for us to sit here, we could obviously name off about 20 or 30 names we think that might be the pick, but to sit here and narrow it down really much further than that's super tough this year.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to throw a name, I mean, I don't want to.
Hi, Patrick.
I don't want to commit to a name and get yelled at later for it. I've still always really thought highly of Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. I don't know if he's going to be there at 49 because he ran 4.79, but I've always thought he fits well as that immediate Hargrave replacement. Captain Spartan 04, have you all done any research on Jordan Elliott out of Missouri? I think he could be the last potential plug-and-play D tackle we could get that could right away start. He is lined up as a DN too. Yeah, I've looked at him a little bit. I know he's kind of a feast or famine, high variance type player, but he's bigger than like the Gallimores and Blacklocks and some of the more under tackle types that we've talked about some. So he's an interesting guy. I want to get to Elliott and Matabuke from Texas A&M, who's a little undersized as well, but I think really strong with good length for his frame. So I don't have the greatest feel for Elliott, but somebody that that's a potential guy. Though I will say the last Missouri defensive lineman they drafted early didn't work out too well.
Well, you're talking about Ziggy?
Yeah, I'm just making a joke. I'm not.
The poor thing about Ziggy was a square peg trying to fit in a round hole.
Is he still in the league? He's bounced around for the longest time. Like Washington.
Last year?
Is he with Washington still?
Yeah, I don't remember if he was last year or not.
Good for him. But any thoughts on Elliott?
I have viewed him more as a kind of a, if he was going to be a 3-4 kind of player, more of a defensive end. Obviously, he could play that defensive tackle spot, in the Steelers kind of sub-package type defense there and all. But he's also kind of a guy that I think many feel is going to be off the board by the time the Steelers even pick at 49 overall. So that's yet another reason why I haven't gone too deep in to more than just the highlights on him.
Fair. Julian Washington asks, what do you guys think about going interior O-line with the first two picks and draft the best slot receiver you can find in the third? Also thoughts on Jeremy Chin, the safety. Dave, what are your thoughts on all those questions?
Look, I mean, interior, you're not going to hurt my feelings to see this team wind up with Tyler out of Wisconsin or Cesar Ruiz or Cushenberry maybe in the middle round. Where do you have Cushenberry, going, Alex? I mean, he's more of a third, maybe mid to third or late third round kind of guy.
Yeah, I put him in the third round at 102 in like my mock draft 2 mocks ago, but I felt like that was too low. So he's
I think he can go there.
You think? Okay.
Yeah.
The comments disagreed in that post. Yeah, I mean maybe, but I feel like he's going to go higher.
everybody always says he's not going to last that long. He's not going to last that long. Everybody's not going to last that long.
All right, famous last words. I just, Julie, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly, but I wouldn't go into your line with both the second round and the third round pick, if that's what you mean when you say the first two picks. Second round, sure, I'm fine with. Slot receiver, I talked about that kind of being a need and trying to find that more traditional slot guy they haven't had in a while. And then Jeremy Chin had a really strong Senior Bowl week, a tremendous athlete, him and Kyle Duggar, small school guys trying to break that stigma, but just kind of embody what the versatility of the NFL requires. And you have to wear multiple hats and be able to bump against the run and cover tight ends and slot receivers and just do everything. And I think guys like Chin and Duggar can do that, and I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch in the NFL. Wes Hickok, let me ask you something, Dave. Let's assume Dobbins and Taylor are gone, and for the sake of this question, Pitt is hell-bent on a running back at 49. Is there actually another one you think worth the pick? So no Dobbins, no Taylor. Dave, do you still go running back?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Look, I just got done with a lot of stuff, and I'm doing some statistical stuff on all these running backs as well too. And of course, Akers is in that group. Akers had a regular run success rate of this past season on 231 rushes. He had a 53.25 overall run success rate. Short yardage, he was 13 of 18, 72%. Tackles for loss, and this kind of shows you kind of the mess. I haven't looked at every tackle for loss. These are just stats, so you need to add context to them. But 11% of his runs, 26 in total, were for tackle for losses last year. Now, he did have 112 of his 279 total carries that were 4 yards or more, and 47 out of almost 100, which is right at about 47%, on first and 10 carries gained 4 yards. The thing that you look at him on tape, though, is there's just not enough there. I don't think he's dynamic, but there's just, and he did a good job making a lot out of little. Just not enough there to me to put him in the second round, along with guys like Dobbins and maybe Taylor.
Yeah, I'm more open to it with Akers. I think there's a different flavor, obviously, between Dobbins and Akers. Are two pretty different backs, and I think we'll talk about that more in tomorrow's podcast because I want to watch another game on Akers and Dobbins tonight, and I know we wanted to save that discussion. But I'd be more open to it, and it just feels like Akers is more the type of back the Steelers like. Maybe not the guy that I would prefer because I want someone that provides a little bit more big playability, but just in terms of that strong downhill guy that does offer some more lateral agility and ability to create on his own because he had to, because you said Florida State's offensive line was just so bad and that offense was in the tank. I don't know. I feel like Akers would be a candidate at 49.
Hey, Brian.
Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Yeah, Dennis says don't forget the like button. Yeah, if you guys want to like the channel or like the stream, we'd appreciate that. It does help kind of give some more exposure, get some more people on the radar. DN Steeler 0391 says, not necessarily a need, but if the Steelers' right cornerback is around late, could you see that being a pick? If so, who do you like at that position late? Yeah, I think corner's an option. I mean, you lose Artie Burns. You want to, as you talked about Sutton, Hilton going last year, their deal. I think you want to look at cornerbacks. So maybe somebody like, what's his name, Amik Robinson from La Tech. We had a report from Owen go up on him yesterday that kind of is like Mike Hilton 2.0. So if it happens, it'll be late, but it wouldn't shock me if they do something in the 6th or 7th round. Any corners that have? I know we probably haven't looked at corners too much, Dave, but anyone jump out to you?
I have, other than the ones that have been posted on the site, I haven't spent a lot of time with that position group for kind of obvious reasons, because if they do draft one, I feel it would be all late.
Yeah, Asong Basie from Wake Forest, another guy like a small kind of rocked up corner. Larry P says, I could see KJ Hamler being an option. This guy's an absolute missile and would always require safety over the top. Yeah, if you want speed and big playability, I'm watching Hamler right now. I've just finished watching him. I mean, he is that kind of guy. The issue is, does he have the size? The Steelers really have never drafted a true receiver that small. Even guys like Deontay Johnson, AB, weren't that tiny. So that's going to be the concern with KJ Hamler. But you're right, Larry. The dude can fly.
I have a full contextualization up here, up on him somewhere on the site. If you just search a site for Hamler, and it should come up in the results there. And the thing that kind of stuck out to me, yeah, boy, the kid's got some speed. He can definitely work for you out of the slot for sure. The thing is not much of a contested catch guy, obviously, because of his size. Mm-hmm. So you're really looking at it kind of, which isn't a bad thing. A Tyreek Hill kind of player, but you kind of worry about maybe it's under Hamlers if you do plural under the search there, Alex.
Oh, is it under Hamlers? Okay, I didn't know where it was at.
Yeah. But I know I did that. But combated catch. You don't see a lot of that on his film, and not that there's anything wrong with him kind of being a Tyreek Hill type player, but you do always kind of worry a little bit about the durability factor when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Probably an apostrophe or something in there.
Yeah,
Alex.
yeah.
But
I just
okay, there you go.
There we go. So you guys can check out. Yeah, you did that back in February. So we've been talking about Hamler for a little while. I'll have to report on Hamler a little later in the week.
Dude, scroll down so I can see what you have or what I had in there for the average targeted depth on him.
Let's see, average targeted depth 15.9 was the completion, I think. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for in terms of targeted depth.
No, his targeted depth on all 33 targets was 17.1 yards down the field. His average completion distance was 15.9 yards. So, he's when he caught the ball, he caught it almost 16 yards down the field. So that tells you about his ability to make plays down the field. At Penn State last year.
Yeah, I think he had a 93-yard touchdown against Michigan State, Ohio State in 2018. So I mean, just big play after big play. But you're right, contested catches, durability, overall size are going to be the obvious concerns with KJ Hamler. Dennis, despite all the speculation, I think they'll just take the best available player during the draft, except possibly safety. Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously something we talk about a lot. You don't want to reach, you want to find good value. I think that's even more so in a year with so much uncertainty when you're picking at 49, but it always seems to line up with need and talent. It's not just literal BPA. There's always kind of that, where does at its highest peak, where does the line between need and positional, value meet and match the talent itself? So I think BPA is a little too vague. I think it also has to match with kind of their team needs as well. Hey, Patrick, thank you for being here.
Hi, Patrick.
Here's a question. Thoughts on Bryan Edwards from South Carolina? Also, in terms of compensation, what do you think Pitt could get for sliding 10 to 15 picks back in the second? Obviously, dependent on a team wanting to move. Bryan Edwards has been limited, unfortunately, with injury throughout this whole pre-draft process. Did not work out at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he worked out at the Combine. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, a guy with certainly a lot of big playability, but I think that injury stuff is going to really hurt him just because you don't know much about him or don't know enough about him heading into the draft.
I know enough about him. I know he's a little bit overrated. I hate, so I know that's a little bit firm, but I think he's another one. Pull up the contextualization I have on him, Alex, on the site for people to look at there. That's another thing that he's caught it. He's like Pittman. I think Pittman is a little bit overrated. They used him a lot in the screen game. There, so he had a lot of catches, but a lot of those catches were coming, behind the line of scrimmage or not far past the line of scrimmage. That's one of the things that instantly stuck out about him and Michael Pittman is a lot of easy kind of give me catches in there with those two.
Yeah, here's the contextualization on Bryan Edwards. Is there any numbers in here you wanted to point to, Dave? Or?
Well, his average intended air target distance was just 7.85 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's not very far. Look at his average distance. His average completed air yards distance in those 4 games was 5.57 yards.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of short stuff.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Then in terms of trading back, I'll pull up the trade value chart here. Hopefully, okay, got that all set here. The Steelers are at 49. If you go back 10 spots to 59, that's, let's say, Seattle. So you're giving up basically 100 points. So Seattle would have to offer, and this is all of it, just a catch-all, and each team has their own trade value chart. And Colbert's talked about how he doesn't use the trade value chart anyway. So, maybe this all is irrelevant. But if you want to do the math here, Seattle would have to add 100 points here with their next pick. So where does Seattle pick next? So let's say they trade 101, which is worth 96 and points, and then trade 59 for 49. So that basically, evens up the math there. So Pittsburgh would trade 49 to get 59 and 101, pick 101 and 102. That's what you're looking at when you're talking about trading back 10 or 15 spots. Let's see what else we have here. DN Steeler 0391. Michael Pittman, Jr. a fit, only played one side at SoCal. That's thanks to Dave, because I didn't know that till Dave pointed that out. Quick kick Deontay inside. I think Pittman, I think, is a guy that would kind of fit, shades of Juju, but I don't want Deontay Johnson kicking inside.
With him, we talked about him, I think, on the podcast not too long ago. I like him. I don't like him at 49. I'll tell you that. You know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I have a feeling that he's going to slide. Personally, I have a feeling that he might slide on down. I think he's being just a little bit too overrated. If you dive deep into large sections of his film, once again, and get into this, and look, I mean, he can get down the field, but as I pointed out, I think in my contextualization, man, there was a lot of blown coverages and soft, wrong coverages against him on some of those big plays.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry about that. I've put Frank in timeout because he can't play nice with Larry. Dave and Alex says this from Pittman. Dave and Alex, what are we gonna do with Marcus Allen? Just hope he makes the roster. Like that's what he's got to focus on. Just carve out a role in special teams and make the roster. And if he does, great. But I mean, he's just kind of he's not on scholarship anymore if he really ever was in the first place. Alex Flores, could this be the worst draft class due to the circumstance we are in? I don't know if it's the worst. It is the hardest to evaluate, though. I think that's a fair way to put it, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, look, this hasn't been pleasant, and you think if it hasn't been pleasant for us on the outside, imagine maybe what it's like for teams and decision makers, man. I mean, not only are we dealing with not having a first round draft pick, but once again, we're dealing with no pro days. No, by now we usually have a good 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names on the pre-draft visit list. Don't have those. It makes it tough, and it hasn't been as fun as it normally is.
Yeah, but I guess in a sense, it's maybe good to only have 6 picks this year and trade that first rounder to get Minkah, to get that known commodity instead of getting that unknown, getting that mystery meat player. So I guess in a sense, Pittsburgh's in a good spot, and as I said before, their continuity in the front office and the scouting department is going to be really valuable. I mean, is it true that even Colbert and Tomlin can't be in the same room, in the same house with the new virtual draft rule?
That's kind of the way that I'm interpreting it. In there, real quick. I know you and I are probably going to talk about this more in depth on the podcast, which you probably should. But obviously you didn't know at the time when they were trading for Minkah and giving up first round draft pick, but it's going to be really hard on early round draft picks this year, I think, to get on the field or if they do get on the field, be effective, because especially if you don't have a rookie mini camp, if you don't have an OTA program, boy, these kids are going to come into, and this even assumes if training camp gets started on time, these kids are going to come in there with their heads spinning, so what better, I mean, the Steelers technically, and Colbert's not afraid to remind everybody about it. We have a first-round draft pick this year, and his name's Minkah Fitzpatrick.
And he's the best pick of the draft already.
Right now, he's the best pick of the draft there. So, it's just one more thing that, you didn't know any of this garbage was going to happen at the time, but looking back at it now, it really makes it wise for them to do what they did.
I'd be interested to go back to 2011 with the lockout. I know that's not going to be a one-to-one thing, but what rookies made an impact then? I know that year for Pittsburgh it was Hayward, and he did not make much of an impact, but that was also Pittsburgh's old-school philosophy of just never play rookies. So I'd be curious of that 2011 class and how many rookies kind of made a sort of tangible impact that year across the NFL.
Yeah.
Captain Spartan 04 also, why don't y'all mock Colton McKivitz more in the 7th? West Virginia, we know they often visit West Virginia Pro Day. From PA, also Steelers did show combine interest and played in Senior Bowl. I just worry about the fit.
that poor kid had a rough Senior Bowl.
Yeah. The overall athletic limitations. I mean, I like him. I talked about the Senior Bowl. A really great interview. A Duck Hunter. He could really fit well with James Washington and Duck Hodges if he's still on the roster. But, I mean, potentially, because there is some versatility there. I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I don't know if the upside is so great. And I think for at least your mock draft, I would take John Runyon Jr. over Colton McKivitz.
I was getting ready to ask you, who of the two, who would you take?
Yeah, I'd take Runyon.
Yeah.
Kevin the Boss, why do a lot of people have us drafting J.K. Dobbins? Well, I think Ohio State guy, speedy, known guy. I mean, if you're Western PA, Ohio, high school, college football, you're watching J.K. Dobbins. And the Steelers, obviously, some people think that they really should address running back. So it doesn't surprise me when I see that mock there. Patrick Lee, given Ben's age and the team's current window, should we be expecting an offensive playmaker at 49, given that they will be more likely to make an impact compared to offensive tackle, interior offensive line, who would have to wait a year? Potentially, I think the board's wide open at 49. I think you just want to get somebody that... It is fair to say that historically, over the last 5-10 years, the guys they've drafted high in the first and second round have made an impact their rookie year. And assuming guys stay healthy, interior offensive linemen or offensive linemen in general probably wouldn't. So, I mean, that is fair to say if you want to give the edge to offensive playmaker for that reasoning.
Correct.
Mike Eves, where do you value KJ Hamler? We talked a lot about Hamler today. I don't know for sure where I'm going to come in on my evaluation on him. Top 100 player? Is that being too nice?
I think he's third roundish.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he's drafted from. I mean, when you look at his wide receiver class, man.
Yeah.
And people keep saying, well, that guy's not going to be there in the second round. How many wide receivers are going to be drafted in the first round?
Mm-hmm.
I think Hamler's game and the extra value that he adds kind of in the return game can put him in the third round somewhere.
Yeah, maybe he goes higher. I'm thinking about it. Like Hollywood Brown was the first receiver last year in a much worse receiver class, but he was a slight frame speedster guy that's fairly similar to KJ Hamler. So maybe I should give Hamler more credit here. I don't know. It'll be very interesting. I wish he would have run. I wish he could have tested the combine, having that 40 time, because he would have run fast. Would have probably just helped kind of stamp that ticket on him. But if you watch him, he's fast. Brian, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Patrick Lee, more likely the team addresses both inside linebacker and safety, or do you think they try to get a guy who can do both, i.e. Chin, Duggar, Muse, even Akeem Davis-Gaither to a degree? As we talked about earlier, I think that it's probably, not that I'm confident in anything, but there's a decent chance they're going to draft some sort of hybrid guy, and that may kind of accomplish both things, though I think if you're trying to get Tanner Muse to play safety for you, you got another thing coming. So I think a hybrid guy is likely, but I don't know if that cures everything at safety.
Yeah, and hybrids just our flavor talk of the week right now too, just because of the latest any little kind of tidbit that we get nowadays, we tend to over magnify it, and I have a safety and kind of a tweener player, if you will, going in my latest mock draft here. So we'll see. There's a great argument. Probably maybe this is something we'll talk about on the podcast on tomorrow as well too. Alex, is look. I mean, this team has lost a lot of off the ball linebacker. This past off season and all. Matakevich gone. Not that he was a starter, and Barron. We all knew that cut was coming, and you're pretty much left with Vince Williams and Ulysses Gilbert, and it's hard to, as much as we'd like Ulysses Gilbert, it's hard to fathom that he's going to jump right on in there and get a really, really expanded role, after missing a good portion of the season. I mean, he could, but I mean, how many times do you see those kind of late 5th, 6th round draft picks kind of make that impact there? So that's one thing. Is this team do we need to be paying more attention to this team possibly drafting a true off the ball linebacker? That's
fair, and it is a pretty strong class in that regard. I would say that I'm confident as I can be in a guy like UG3 being that number 3, and to your point about how many times have we seen a guy do that?
Two?
Well, Vince. And I was going to say to the guy about like what late round pick is kind of elevated in that role early in his career. Vince Williams, I think, is the epitome of that. He was starting his rookie year because Larry Foote went down. So I think UG3 can be that number 3 inside linebacker.
Would you have ever guessed Vince Williams would be still really around at this point?
When he was drafted?
When he was drafted?
No, I mean, just because what are the odds of any 6th round pick making it that long? I mean, good for him, but yeah, I was not. That was not my expectation.
I mean, they obviously went out for a reason and got Mark Barron last year. Obviously because they had to kind of protect themselves before the draft, and ended up getting Devin Bush, and then obviously, but even so, to play, Barron so much more than Vince Williams. I guess what I'm getting at is, and we'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about it, is what's Vince Williams' playing time going to look like this year?
That's fair. That's a fair critique to separate what I think about Vince versus what the team thinks of him, because they may be two separate things. I get your overall sense of Patrick Lee, and I think a hybrid guy will try to fill all those needs, inside linebacker, safety, and even some of the sub guys like Sutton and Hilton, although, Muse and them aren't going to be slot corners, but just to try to catch all those issues in one pick. Julian Washington, hey, by the way, just wanted to thank you guys for doing the live streams. They help take my mind off the say there. Well, thank you, Julian. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll be here for the next 20 minutes. Captain Spartan 04, I actually think Jordan Elliott could fall to the 4th. Tier 1 techs don't usually go high unless you're really good. Yeah, it's hard to gauge that value. So if he falls into that, Devon Hamilton, Rashad Lawrence type range, hey, I'm all for it. Wes, thank you very much. He says you both are doing a great job with your draft research. We appreciate it. Dane Jackson, this is from Captain Spartan 04. Dane Jackson, late round corner we could target. Yeah, local guy, pit guy. I mean, you want to talk about a draft where you want to probably draft, select guys you know well. Just somebody that works out in your practice facility. Dane Jackson, a thumping corner that I think has a good football IQ. Rory Prunella. Do you expect Juju to put up true number one wide receiver numbers this year with Ben back? Still questions to be answered. I'm fully confident Juju can bounce back. I don't know exactly what the numbers are going to be. They're not going to throw the ball as much as he did 2 years ago, but I think Juju healthy and Ben healthy, I have a lot of confidence.
I think he can at least be an 80 catch guy.
Yeah.
And he needs to be.
Yeah, he does. Pittman, what about running back A.J. Dillon? Yeah, I mean, you talk about size and athleticism. They look for size and production, and he checks those boxes. So I don't know where you get him. I mean, I don't think that guy's going to last deep into day 3. I mean, he could even go a little bit earlier than that. But A.J. Dillon, I think we have a report on him from Josh coming up in the next couple of days. Zach B. Hage, don't we really need a taller, bigger receiver? Most of our guys aren't above 5 feet 11 inches. Seems to me that we need to draft a bigger receiver. Thoughts? Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
I just want one that can be versatile, if possible, and one that could potentially help you out more in the slot. I think look, you got a pretty big guy now in Eric Ebron that should be able to help out in the red zone there. I think the whole size thing, obviously, I think 5'8", 5'9" is too small, but if you give me those guys right there, the 6, 5'11", 6, 6'1", I can work with that. So yeah. I think I would gladly trade speed and versatility for that size.
Yeah, I just want a good receiver. I think you have all 3 positions. Deontay as your X, James Washington as your Z, Juju in the slot. It's not like last year where you have to fill A/B shoes as an X receiver. Just get talent, and big, small, to an extent. There's thresholds, obviously, but I just want talent there.
Patrick. Hi, Grant. Who we missing saying hello to here? I want to make sure we say hello to all these people.
Mark Wesley in here. Thank you very much.
Mark, hello.
Let's see what we have here. Patrick Lee, bigger need interior offensive line or offensive tackle? Most will say interior offensive line. However, with Violet's versatility at offensive guard and the signing of Wisniewski, would you be surprised if the offensive tackle was selected above interior offensive line? Both reserves have limited game experience. I'd still lean into your offensive line, but the more I think about it, the more I hear comments from guys like you, Patrick, the more I kind of am more open to the idea of offensive tackle, because Filer, Villanueva, and Banner all heading in the final year of their contract, and beyond that, there's a lot of question marks.
I won't be shocked if they draft a tackle. Yeah. Obviously, I kind of leaning towards guard center types, but I'm not. I think my TV will be safe if they draft a tackle. Especially if they get them, kind of a steal maybe in the 3rd round or so. You get kind of maybe a technician, maybe a guy like Cleveland. We'll see how far he falls, which probably that might be wishing a little bit too much for him to fall that far there. But when it comes to good tackles, though, I kind of view them like running backs. Though you better try to get one early if possible.
Yeah, I will say that the last tackle they drafted was a surprise. I didn't see him taking Chukwuma Okorafor, and they did that earlier, and it probably was a good thing. So, I'm more open to the idea of tackle than I was, say, a couple weeks ago. So, good point there, Patrick. Wes Hickok, do you guys think there's any chance that Xavier McKinney or Grant Delpit fall to 49? If they did, do either fit for us? I need to watch McKinney more. Delpit, he's interesting, he's athletic, he's a playmaker, but, man, that tackling can be just un-Steeler-like, if I'm being kind. Alex Flores, hey, what do you guys think of Jacob Eason? I have not studied him too in-depth. I just haven't really looked at any of these quarterbacks because I know they're not going to be an option for Pittsburgh. Dave, any thoughts on Jacob Eason?
No.
Okay, fair enough. I
haven't studied a lot of the quarterbacks because I'll worry about running around with my chicken head, like a chicken with my head cut off should they somehow wind up drafting a quarterback. I will be shocked if that happens, and I'll do my homework after the fact if it happens.
Yeah, if we're talking about Jacob Eason, it's because somebody else in the AFC North drafted him, and not because he's on Pittsburgh's radar. Dia Steelers 0391 watched the AFC Championship game versus Denver last night. Favorite memory from that playoff run? I forgot about Cedric Wilson and how solid he was. I mean, there were so many good memories from that playoff run. I just remember in that Denver game specifically, since you mentioned it, how Pittsburgh came out so aggressive on that first drive, just came out throwing. Everyone thought they were going to run the ball. Denver's got to stop the run, and Pittsburgh just the opposite and just drove down the field, I think, for an opening touchdown to, I think, Hines Ward on that first drive. So just
was that the one where Ben gave the gun?
Right?
Ben gave the guns right after that one, didn't he?
It was, yeah. I just love that mentality of just, we're going to take it to you. We have a young quarterback. We don't care. were playing for it all and just took control of that game, set the tone earlier. But I mean that whole season. I mean, there's so many good memories there. Dave, any particular memories?
I got caught down the 1994 rabbit hole last night.
Oh my God.
I was watching Arrows. Yeah, I was gonna just cut it. I had seen some highlights, and because of the old throwback, those are the remember the old what was it, the 33s? I think were that year, right?
Yeah,
and,
the one that, like Barry Foster was wearing. I remember the
right.
picture. Yeah.
They wore them against I think the Colts and the Cardinals that year, and I was just, and you know me, you turn that tape on, and I'm gonna. If I don't have the right mind frame, I'll sit there and watch the damn thing, and that's what I did. So I fell down that rabbit hole last night.
Garber.
The old Gary Anderson fake field goal call in that one on a 4th and 7 in what was probably a really makeable field goal for Gary Anderson.
Did Bill Cowher take credit for that one, like he did on which one did he take credit for with Bobby April? Do you remember that story?
I don't remember.
It was one that worked. Obviously, it wasn't one that didn't work. But I'm just anyway. Garber, and I apologize. I cannot even begin to pronounce your whole username. But he asks, "Love the chat. Sorry for joining late. Can you explain why you choose Pittman over Claypool? Pittman seems like a taller Juju. He doesn't seem explosive. I'd prefer Higgins or Claypool if available." I don't know if we said we would choose Pittman over Claypool. Have we, Dave?
No, I don't think. Look, I like Claypool, and he's another one I got a contextualization up. He is a guy that will give you some contested catches as well too. He's a little bit heavier of a guy though, you know. There was that talk around the combine is he beefing up to play tight end? And obviously if he's going to make the conversion to tight end, you want to talk about something that's going to take some time there. Personally, I think he's better off maybe trying to lose a little bit of weight and go to wide. He's just one of those tweeners.
Yep.
That once again you better have. I don't hate him, but I mean, and you see what was his average targeted distance? 10.1 yards, and his average completed air distance was 8.5 yards. So he can get down the field a little bit there. There's a lot to like about him, but I think there's enough not to like about him that's going to put him around that 3rd or 4th round range, I think.
Real quick, who did you like more, Miles Boykin last year or Claypool this year? Big Notre Dame receivers.
Oh, wow.
I think I'd go Boykin.
Yeah, I think Boykin from what I can kind of remember about that tape.
All right, fair enough. Captain Spartan 04, should we target the Penn State running back coach as the next potential running back coach? Feels like they have always got a solid back, and our current running back coach hasn't made our running back improve that much since college. I think Eddie Faulkner did a really good job last year. He got dealt a pretty difficult hand with all the guys coming in and out and injuries and stuff, so I'm not ready to turn the page on Eddie Faulkner yet, personally.
He definitely needs to have a better, we need to see that group turn around this year.
Yeah, but it was so just beat up last year. I mean, I think Snell had a good year. I think Kerith White coming in cold like that, I mean, is indicative of good coaching, getting those guys ready. Rob James, Dave, do you believe there's a chance that Mims or Jefferson falls to us at 49?
Yeah, I would bet against it probably, but I mean, right now there's supposedly 60 guys that are guaranteed to go in the first round. So that I'd take my shoes off here, but that math don't work. So I tell you, it'd be hard to pass up either one of those two guys, at Jefferson or Mims, should they be sitting there at 49. I'll tell you that.
I'd be shocked if Jefferson fell. I'd be surprised if Mims were to fall, but make me choose which guy's more likely to drop. I could see Mims dropping as opposed to Jefferson. Captain Spartan 04, Saints are working in a brewery altogether. I got to think the Steelers are meeting somehow. I think the NFL's banning that. I did see that report, but I think the NFL is saying that you are not allowed to do that. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how the league's going to enforce that exactly, but I don't think that's going to be allowed. I think everyone has to work separately. DN Steelers 0391, do either of you have experience meeting with current or past players in real life? Well, I've been to the Senior Bowl 4 times, so I've been down there and interviewing guys and interviewed some people, through phone calls and stuff like that, if that's what you mean. I'm not entirely sure what exactly you meant by that, DN Steelers.
What about meeting me? I met Cordell Stewart and bought Cordell a couple of drinks in Savannah, Georgia when I lived there.
That was just a happenstance where you just happened to be there?
They had some sort of function out there at I forget what the name of the was it. I'm drawing a blank of the Air Force base or the military base that was out there. Real quick, I should know it because I've been on that place. But anyway, they had an opening of kind of a sports bar on that base out there that I was kind of, because of selling coffee in the area and tea and all like that in the area, being district manager, I had kind of a VIP in that, so went to that and met the couple of Steelers that were there. It was Cordell Stewart. I'm trying to remember the young defensive back that was there at the time. I'll remember it here in a minute.
Yeah. Captain Spartan says Cam Newton made an immediate impact in 2011. Okay, that's a fair one. That's good. Pitman, how many games do you think James Conner will play? I mean, I have no idea. Hopefully at least 13. Get 13 games out of James Conner, and I can live with that. Patrick Lee, do you think the team is more likely to address running back via traditional back, or do you think they might try to upgrade J. Sam with a more versatile pass-catching back like Gibson? I'd prefer the latter with somebody like that, but history says they're going to go with the bigger, more traditional back, though Gibson is 228 pounds. That's why I think he's a really good blend between the size I like at the position with the versatility with the way the league is going. So I really would like a guy like Antonio Gibson. The question with Gibson, though, by the way, is just lack of production. Like, they like production, too. He's got a one-year production guy. That's going to be a concern, I think, with him. Let's see. Natane Mutai, definitely a draft risk. That's worth it. Where do you see him going? I just did a report on him the other day. Yeah, I can't see Pittsburgh being interested. There's just too many red flags with his injury situation. I think he's probably going to fall into early day 3 because who wants to take that risk early?
Randy Fuller is the other DB out of Tennessee State. The Steelers drafted him. He was drafted originally by the Broncos in the 4th round of the 1994 draft. So he and Cordell Stewart were the two that were out there at the base that day in Savannah.
Mutai, any thoughts on him and where he might go? Pittsburgh's probably not going to draft him, right? You wouldn't think?
What's that?
With Mutai, Natane Mutai, the Fresno State guard, any chance he's going to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, boy, man, he just can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's a very intimidating, successful guard. But the problem is he's had so many injuries over the course of the last 3 or 4, really his whole college career. So Fort Stewart is the name of that of that base out there.
Okay.
I finally got that out of the back of my head. But anyway, he's just, the Steelers like guys. They tend to stay away from the guys that have the injury history there.
I think Dave, you need to be on these on ESPN or NFL Network this year talking draft and just pulling out random information from before. Just give me back, Todd McShay going. Dave, what do you think about Natane Mutai? Well, Fort Stewart's actually.
Pull out stuff that has nothing to do with nothing.
But Mutai, he's got 2 torn Achilles, a Liz-Frank surgery. It's just too much risk for the Steelers are generally risk adverse, and I think this year is certainly going to be risk adverse. Zach asks, what are your thoughts on Darrington Evans? He's the kid from App State. White Evans good, right? It's App State, Arizona State. A little undersized, but explosive. So I probably need to watch him clearly because I don't remember exactly where he went. Any thoughts on Evans, Dave?
No, I have watched.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you like Leke Futu as a nose tackle? Yeah, I think he's kind of more traditional plugger. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to get Alamidu Tiamu vibes over here. But yeah, I think he can kind of be that big plugger. Russell Williams, Rager, Mims, Dobbins. What do we do here? I need a sparky, skilled guy. I mean, if Mims is there, he's my dude. I think Dobbins and Rager, you're drafting for that big playability. But if you're making me choose of the 3, I'm taking Denzel Mims. Dave, of those 3, Rager, Mims,
Mims.
Yeah. Zach Behage, great job, guys. Thank you very much, Zach. Tyler Swartz, what do you think about A.J. Terrell? I just haven't watched enough corners this year because I just don't see him taking a corner that early. So I don't have a great answer for you, unfortunately, Tyler, but thank you for asking the question. Muhammad Al-Ali, I guess. Thank you for being here. Hey, Alex, I feel like this will be a draft like last year where we see receivers with first-round talent dropped to round 2. For example, DK. That's interesting. Is it going to be where you're going to see the big run early, or a team's going to wait because they're all going to tell themselves we can wait on a receiver? Dave, you have a feeling which way this thing might go, receivers early, or are they going to slip a little bit?
I think you're going to see going to be a pretty good run on him initially, but once again, I think there's a chance that one of those guys, a Jefferson, a slim chance, but a Jefferson, a Mims, or a Rieger, or one of those guys kind of fall down.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think the receiver run's going to happen early because the talent is so strong, and in this class, you just want to get talent, and you don't want to wait and miss out and have more uncertainty. So my feeling is the run's going to happen early in the first round as opposed to it happening in the second round. But we'll see. DN Steelers. Dave, can you explain your background again? Coffee, right?
Yeah. Did coffee for quite some time. Of course, going even farther back, was in pizza restaurants early age. Worked a lot of restaurants throughout my life, and then got into coffee and district sales manager for a while for a Southeastern coffee company, and went on from there.
You say the genome. Do you guys expect Derek Watt to contribute much on offense? Doesn't seem like the Steelers have used a elite blocker in quite some time. Well, they couldn't last year because Rosie Nix was never healthy. I don't know how you define much. He'll be used a little bit, but much is, in a literal sense, is not going to happen. What do you think his snap count is going to be for Derek Watt this year? You think 100 snaps, 150 snaps?
Yeah, 130 seems like ceiling.
Yeah. I think just short yardage. This is the worst team in football last year. In a lot of categories offensively, of course, but in short yardage, they were last in football. I think that's one reason why you saw Derek Watt be brought in. Mark Leslie, Coke or Pepsi? Coke for me. Easy.
Yeah, Coke.
All right. That's the little debate there. Do you like both?
Me? Nah.
Yeah,
nah.
now you're on Coke? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Daryl Delomes, what's up, young Alex? How do you feel about Kenny Wilkie's defensive end from Michigan State? He's trying to convert and stand up. He was trying to do that at the Senior Bowl. I just see kind of a weird body type, the T-Rex arms that Dave's going to mention. Not a great athlete. He's got good production, good effort. I'm just not feeling it with Kenny Wilkie's.
Yeah, production's there. Tape a little less to be desired. They're real robotic at times. Did not stand up but about 4 snaps. I think he stood up about 4 snaps during his entire career. They're not much at all. So that makes a conversion to outside linebacker even tougher if you haven't played on your feet.
Joey Falcone asks, if NFL decides to play some empty stadium games, will the Steelers still play Renegade? Man, I hope so. They have to, just for the hilarity of it. Mr. Balls, not sure how much you've gone into it in the past. What do you think the impact of the Steelers on Hard Knocks will have on the season if we have a season? I think you've talked about it, Dave. The odds of them having Hard Knocks feel slimmer and slimmer by the day. It
really is, boy. To me, I mean, here we are already in what April, and I mean, heck, we don't even know yet. I mean, we're pretty sure we're not going to have OTAs, right?
Yeah, they've already been canceled. Yep.
And at this point here, so to me, depending on how quickly this thing gets solved, with the virus, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. Mm-hmm. I think Hard Knocks might not happen at all this year.
Yeah, I think so too. If it does happen, I don't think the impact would be drastic, but obviously the Steelers wouldn't like it for obvious reasons. Captain Spartan, any player like Minka Fitzpatrick this year, where we ain't getting him, but 2 years from now we trade for. So basically asking who the top safeties are. I mean, I could really see them liking Antoine Winfield. I mean, I don't know if he's a one-to-one comparison with Minka. He's a little bit smaller, but the dude's a playmaker and a ball hawk that's a lot of fun to watch with NFL bloodlines. Mm-hmm. Dave, you left out the most important part. What does Slash drink? Strikes me as a mixed drink guy.
Cavassier and Coke back then. I remember that.
The things you remember. Alex Flores, is Juju and Johnson going to put up 2,000 yards combined this coming season? I haven't even done the math. It's 1,000 each. I don't know. Yeah, maybe make me choose. I'd say yes, they will. Dave, what do you think?
2,000. They're going to be right at it. I think I think they can both get right at it.
Yeah, DN Steelers 0391. What do you guys think of Nick Vanette's comment? Strikes me as a guy who points the finger at everyone else. Flopped in 2 cities now. I don't really care that much. I just took it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's not a great thing to say, but it didn't bother me too much, to be honest with you.
He would have been better served. Said, look, it just didn't. It's too bad that things didn't work out. They're a great organization. I'm now ready to play and give everything I have for the Broncos. That's the way he should have handled that, because the way the context was in that, it left it up to a lot of interpretation there. And this is the same guy that was just saying, a couple of weeks ago, boy, I hope to be part of this organization for years to come. And during the season, I'm talking about how he's never had that much fun playing football. So really, it makes it sound like he's talking out of two. I didn't care for the comments, obviously, and you can tell by the tone of the article that I wrote up after that I didn't. And look, where was that damn? That they're bringing him on to be a blocker. I never saw that blocking last year.
Mm-hmm. Certainly sung a different tune in Denver than what he said in Pittsburgh. That's for sure. Tyler Swartz, a couple more questions, wrap up the stream here. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys are staying safe. Do you think the Steelers will move on from Big Dan come training camp? We've been saying that for how many years now, and he still hasn't. So we'll see who they draft and everything, but he's stuck out a lot longer than I thought he would.
He's still a leader in the clubhouse. He might be the one man in there, but He owns it right now.
What size
until otherwise.
What size green jacket would Daniel McCullers have to wear? Are they making that big? I guess they made one for John Daly, right? He's about as big as Daniel McCullers. Pablo Martinez, good night, guys. First time on the chat. Just wanted to mention I get all your movie references on the podcast. Yeah, he clarifies Dave's movie references. I don't get them, but Pablo, thank you so much for being here. Dave and I certainly appreciate it. A couple more questions. Captain Spartan, not asking for who's the top safety, just a top player who you would trade for 2 years from now, like Chase Young, Tua Simmons. I just haven't watched as many first-round guys this year because I know they're just not in consideration for Pittsburgh. I don't have a good name for you, to be honest, right now. I mean, a receiver like a Justin Jefferson maybe, but I mean, those things are just so hard to predict, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Eric Ebron scores 10-plus touchdowns and dominates in the red zone? I'm more pessimistic. No. Yeah, okay. Dave is more pessimistic than I. Yeah, I mean, I would love that. That'd be ideal. My feeling says no. Mark Miller, if all other sports leagues start playing games without fans in the stands, do you believe that could reset the market for ticket prices and ultimately the constant inflation of ticket prices? That is a question above my pay grade, Dave.
That's way above my pay grade too. Yeah.
Yeah,
let's just hope we can get everybody back to work and back playing here pretty soon.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are questions for later on down the road, and no one just has any idea. It's all kind of based on the science and the doctors and where this virus is going. Mark Leslie says, thanks so much for doing these. Breaks up the hours stuck at home. Thank you so much, Mark. And Dan Mohammed says, Dan McCullers has naked pictures of someone. I will say McCullers has played better the last 2 years. I think Carl Dunbar's been the best thing for Big Dan. I think, John Mitchell's personality, just, that Jules Sargent type, does not mesh well with Dan McCullers. He's a big teddy bear. But, yeah, I mean, if they move on from Big Dan, you won't see me complain about that. All right, we'll stick around for another second or two. Any other questions, get them in last second. Otherwise, Dave and I will peace out. Again, we're here on the stream every Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys were awesome. Really appreciate it. We'll have this archived on my YouTube channel. It'll go up on Steelers Depot on Tuesday morning. And, of course, we'll have the podcast Tuesday morning as well. So, Dave, thanks so much for being here. Really good conversation today.
Yeah, really good. We'll have a lot to talk about on the podcast tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. We're going to have, I think, a debate about J.K. Dobbins versus Cam Akers. So thank you, guys. Last question from Austin. Who do you think Steelers MVP will be in 2020? Let's hope Ben, because that means he came back and had an awesome season, and that'd be a lot of fun. Has he gotten an MVP award from the team before? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I think he's won it. Hadn't he once?
Okay. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember if he did or not. Team may be MVP. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. I can't remember.
But 2020, if not, would be a great time for it. So that'll be it for Dave and I. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Peace and love.